What's happening, Get One SirJames coming at you guys with another video, and today I'm here to show you guys my custom PC build. This is something that I've been wanting to do for years now. It was basically on my bucket list so I could finally scratch that off. And you know, when you're building a computer, everyone has their own thought process of what exactly they want. Some people are, you know, in the budget range. Some people want high-end. Some people want high-end 4K quality. Again, for me, it's more of the high-end 1080p maxed out settings with no performance issues whatsoever, which is exactly what I got here. The reason why not in the 4K area is because there will be some things I would have to upgrade, and again, I got to think of money-wise because there's only so much I was going to put into this, which again, this computer already is about over $2,000 worth of items here. And of course, on top of that, if you are going to be building a computer, they do have options where you can go and get all the parts and have these other companies build them, but that's just a lot more money. It's so much easier and basically less expensive to buy the individual parts and to build it yourself. I mean, you have access to YouTube, plenty of tutorials, so that should be your best option. Now, because I did this, does that mean that I'm going to be giving up completely on console gaming and join the PC Master Race group? No, I'm still going to be a console gamer just as well as PC gaming with my old rig. Depending on the game, sometimes things will be in medium-high settings or sometimes off altogether. but again, I wasn't getting completely maxed out performance and whatnot, and it was just so frustrating. Here, I want something that's a little bit more, a lot up to date, actually modern, and is able to hit the benchmarks that I want, which is exactly what I got with my build. So let's go ahead and start with the important part, which is the motherboard. This is an Asus motherboard, and this is the Republic of Gamers Strike Z378 Gaming. A link to this is in the description down below, which the retail pricing of this is about $210, but in this case I price matched it for what was it, $190 with Amazon Prime. And this is the only thing that I actually ran into an issue with, because the first one that I bought actually had a defect with the RAM card slots. And I do keep in mind that this only supports DDR4 RAM, so if you have DDR3 or not work with this, you would have to upgrade to DDR4, and supports up to 64 gigs at its highest. I don't know, whatever the MHZ. Again, I don't know the technical terms for PC, so keep that in mind as well. But anyways, what was happening is that when everything was installed, I inserted the RAM cards in the correct spot like they're supposed to according to the actual booklet inside, which I was following along perfectly. And what would happen is that the computer will turn on, but nothing will pop up on screen. It was so frustrating. However, if I had one RAM card in it, computer turns on, I finally see an image. I was like, okay, cool. And then I updated the motherboard and all that fun stuff. Then I tried inserting the second RAM card, again for 16 gigs. Again, the same issue, the LED on the RAM slot would just keep popping up. I tried all the different troubleshoot options to the point where I was frustrated, returned it, exchanged it for another one, and then that apparently was the issue. So again, a little bit of fun experience there. See, besides that, of course, let's go ahead and talk about the RAM. This is the RAM that I got. So the first one is the Corsair Vengeance LED, and the second one is the Corsair Vengeance LPX. They're basically the same exact brand. I know some people are probably going to be like, oh, you're mixing RAM together. I'm actually not, because they're the same brand, same speed and everything. And I did double check my information, did my little research, because I was going to get it to where it was all just the LED option. But the thing was, and again, keep in mind this is just the white LED. They do have it in like blue and red, or you can get the RGB RAM card and change to whatever color and effects. But I wanted something that was a little bit more subtle towards the center and just have the RGB going around the case instead. And since I bought the last one at my local Best Buy, I drove all the way to Riverside because they said that they had this in stock and they didn't have any of the LED ones. So I was like, okay, what do I do? Again, they said, well, you can go for this one. And so that's exactly what I did. And I've had no issues and it works perfectly fine on the motherboard. So there's that. And after a while of thinking about it, I'm actually happy that I only did get just one pair with LEDs. Again, it just has a nice subtle effect that just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe what words I want to use here, but it's just really nice is what I'm trying to get at. Next up, of course, is we have the Intel Core i7-8700. So that's what I have in there. Moving on over is, of course, the power supply. This is a modular power supply, a lot different compared to the old power supply that I had, which is basically where all the cables were connected into it. Here, there's no cables connected. What you get instead is you actually get this bag. Inside the bag, which is very nice quality, by the way, Corsair brand, is you get, of course, all your cabling, and you just pull out whatever cables that you need. So you don't have to use everything, which is very nice. So you can get a little bit more of a cleaner setup. But again, this is a 850 watts Gold Plus. This is the RMX series, so really good power supply. So again, I am happy with that. You do get a thick power cable for it though, so that was interesting. It's almost as, actually I think it's thicker than a PS4 Pro power cable. See, next up is, of course, my capture card. I was picking between the Elgato 4K or AverMedia 4K. I ended up choosing the AverMedia 4K capture card. The reason why is because based on numerous reviews on YouTube, a lot of people are saying that this one, as far as software goes, it was a lot better than the Elgato 4K one, and there were still some issues. And on top of that, there's also a $100 price difference. The Elgato is around $400, this is around $300, or of course less with Amazon Prime, so you could probably get this for around $280, so a much better deal. And I've had no issues whatsoever, so which means that I could play my games in 4K or upscale 4K, whatever technical term you want to use here, Or the other option that I could use, which a lot of people have mentioned, is you record your content in 4K, but you render it out in 1080. So it's going to be something that I'm going to be checking out as well. Next up is, of course, the graphics card. The graphics card that I have in there is actually something from my previous computer due to the fact that it was still good to this date, and because everything else around it was nicely upgraded, it works out flawlessly now. And that, of course, is the AverMedia GTX 1080. My bad, it's not the 1080. The NVIDIA GTX 1070 Founders Edition. And the reason why I went with that one still instead of just buying like a 1080 Ti is because it would be a waste of money for me to buy the 1080 Ti. And the reason why I say that is because AverMedia's got new graphics cards coming out. So if anything, it would make more sense to upgrade to the newer one instead of upgrading one that's just kind of 2 cards slightly up ahead with just a few difference in frame rate and probably a couple other little features, but that's really about it. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about cooling inside the case. We have the Kraken X72 by NZXT. This is the 360mm liquid cooler. The installation on this is basically very simple, to be quite honest, and works out great. What's cool is that you got this little hockey puck hub over on the Intel chip that has an LED that goes around. There's also RGB effects that you could go ahead and utilize there. So overall, this works out great. And basically what I did as far as the cooling goes inside the case is that there's a total of 10 fans. On the front here, there's a total of 6 doing the push-pull configuration with the radiator. There's 3 exhausting air from atop, and of course 1 on the rear exhausting air out. And I have done, basically you get like the little smoke and stuff to kind of see if your air quality inside the case is balanced or if there's some like negativity, and everything is balanced to the core. So good on that one, and it runs quiet. So that's the other thing that surprised me, because I figured 10 fans in there is probably going to be a loud PC. No, it's actually pretty quiet, so happy about that one. And speaking of case, before we get to the final stuff here, the case that I chose is the NZXT H700. There's 2 different ones. There's the H700 or the H700i, and this was probably the hardest time that I had was choosing a case. I looked through several cases, several reviews, their ups and downs, positives and negatives, and yada yada yada, and I finally ended up sticking with this one because it was simple to use, easy, built like a tank, and I was like, you know what, that's perfect, and I had the color option that I wanted, and honestly, I'm very happy with the quality of the case. And it's got the tempered glass panel on the side, which is what I wanted, so you could see the whole RGB effect, and it's got plenty of cooling room and radiator support. So again, I mean, I don't think I could have picked a better choice than that, to be quite honest. And next up is, of course, the RGB effects. Basically, what do I have in there? First off, starting off with the fans on the top, and then on the rear here is that I'm using the Corsair LL 120 RGB fans. So this is a 3-pack, which it comes with a couple extra items, and of course another single, so I can complete that circuit. Along with that, do keep in mind that all this tends to go together, so you kind of have to buy all these separate. Along with that, we have the Lighting Node Pro, but do keep in mind that if you buy this, you actually don't need the Lighting Node Pro. You would actually need the smaller version, which is just the expansion pack, so you could save yourself 20 bucks. But this was the only one that was available at the time. So again, all these go together. And best of all, if you have all that, you definitely want to get this, which is the Commander Pro. This is just a little box hub which allows you to connect up to 6 fans, so meaning that if you're worried about not having enough fan slots, this works out perfect for you. There's another hub where all the LED portions plug into, and what's nice about this is that as long as you have everything aligned properly, which do keep in mind if you do install the fans, make sure you have it in the correct order. So in this case for me, this one over here is number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then of course you got the strip in its own circuit, meaning that if you end up using the software, you have a lot of different light up effects, and if you have the fans installed correctly, you get a nice cool pattern. If you don't have it installed correctly, some of the lighting effects may be a little bit of a mishap. But again, this is just very simple, easy to use. You could also turn off the lights if you want. You could change the fan speeds from quiet, balanced, or basically all out, depending on what you're doing if you need a little bit more cooling in there. You also have these little prongs in there so you could actually place inside the case to keep tabs on temperatures. So just all sorts of different things you can do with the little software that includes with the little box. And of course, last but not least is something important, because my original PC had a CD drive and a SD card reader. This one, since this is a mid-tower, does not have that option. So I had to get a memory card reader, because that's what my camera uses. You got the SD card, and this also has an SD card reader. Works out perfectly, since most of the time you don't use CDs anymore. So anyways, that is pretty much about it. Like I said, I am satisfied with my build to the core. The only thing I'm probably going to be adding is another SSD slot, because I did have a hard drive in there, but I'm going to change that to an SSD. And of course, my main Windows program is on an SSD, which is the Windows 10 64-bit. But like I said, overall, I am extremely satisfied with my build. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time.